So we all swing our swing, we all hit shots and move a certain way, and so we all have certain patterns and shot types that our swing and our body functionality promotes. But can we do something about it? This video we're going to have a look at the clubs and see how they can influence your shot shape, your shot patterns, and how they can help you manage that without having to go through a complete swing reconstruction. So we're going to start by looking at the fade bar setup. Now, as you can see from the background there, that's a little bit of left to right shape. And my normal shot's pretty neutral. So what I'm going to be doing is taking one of the most fade bar setups I can, and we'll gradually move it towards one of the most draw bar setups and see how much shot shape you can influence in a driver setup by just changing these parameters. So head weights are the same, but they're different biases. And then I'll work on a little bit of change in shafts as well and see how much that can influence it. So I'm going to do 2 or 3 shots with this, just looking at something that is really designed to gear away from the left-hand side. So shaft-wise, stable tip, so there's not a huge amount of kick. Now, it doesn't necessarily create a draw bias, but the more you can tighten up that bottom end, the less recovery you get. And also we've got a low spin forward weighted head. Again, there's less of that rotation, less of that gearing around. The head's designed to sit a little bit flatter, so everything's gearing towards trying to bleed it left to right just a little bit. So I'm going to do 2 or 3 with this just to get a benchmark, and then we'll take that forward from there. So head-wise, so the low spin model. So I'm trying with these just to swing through, keep it as neutral as possible. You can see with that, there's just that little bit of bleed. And yeah, what you tend to find is the lower spin setups are geared more this way, simply because the stronger someone's swing, the more damaging that right to left, as a right-hander, that right to left hook can become. So that allows a more aggressive move through and essentially a bit of a safety net against the left-hand miss. Little toe side, but I can really feel that head gearing over a little bit and dropping under. The tip bounce in this shaft helping to create that little bit of a lag makes it harder for me to bring that toe round and get it going left. I'll give that one more as a base average. That's a good solid hit. So this is actually the shaft that I use in my game. That's why I'm starting with this. So it's something that I know I hit a very, very neutral shot. I play the TSR3. This is the triple diamond, weight forward, and just flatten down a little bit in terms of lie as well. So all of those are going over left to right. So it's just got that real kind of consistency of shot pattern to it. So what I'm going to do next is go to the draw bias. Now I'm just going to go to the extremes on this because we don't need to show kind of incremental variances in 4 or 5 heads. Let's take it from one extreme to the other, because ultimately you're either trying to avoid the left or avoid the right. So what's going to be best at doing that? So I'm just going to switch head over to the draw model now. So step 2, going to the AI Smoke, the Max D. I'm keeping it within one brand because this way I think it's only really kind of sensible to look at similar tech, the same style of head, and looking at their most draw and fade bias. There will be other options and other opportunities in a fitting to explore more options than this, but I feel like the relevance of working within one brand is the most sensible thing for this particular test. So into the Max D, it sits a little bit more closed when you put it down the ground, whereas the triple diamond is a little bit flatter, which gears the face open a little bit, but also sits a little bit more open. This one sits more upright, more toe up. And the relevance of that is it helps that rotate a little bit faster. But there's also a lot more weight into the heel side. So again, it's slowing the heel down and letting that toe catapult through as well. So same shaft, same swing weight, same loft. And let's see what happens with this. Very, very different visual here. What's interesting here is I can really feel, that's gone left there, but through the swing, whereas with the triple diamond, I could almost feel that toe dropping and opening. With this one, it's the complete opposite. There's a real catapult. There's someone who's quite sensitive to it going that way, because that's been my miss for about 30 years. It's an uncomfortable feeling, but it's really noticeable how that toe wraps through. And so what I've got to try and do with this is make sure I just free up and ignore that feeling as much as possible. Because for me as a drawer of the ball, my instinct is to guard against one that's going that way. Whereas the fade bass one's comfortable because I can commit to it knowing it's not going left. So this for me, I mean, saying really quite interesting seeing how far left that's going. Let's do one more there. And I think the last few years, this is where we've seen big differences from a head setup point of view. Previously, I always felt draw bars heads, how much difference have they really made? A bit, but I think with now how light the crowns are getting and how much weight's able to be redistributed around the heads, we're really starting to see some noticeable differences in shot patterns with them. Yeah, it's just so easy to bring the toe round of the head relative to the triple diamond. So I think there are a lot of golfers out there that might say, it's not that easy to bring the toe round. But representatively, you know, where with the triple diamond head, the shot patterns were drifting to the right of that center line. These are really starting left of it and ripping left. You know, that one is path 0.8 degree out to in. That was exactly the same as the last swing with the triple diamond, but there's about a 6.5 degree difference in face angle. That creates a heck of a lot of left and right dispersion, which we'll look at the summary of once we've done one more iteration. So I'm going to look at a shaft that makes it easier still to bring that toe round. Again, this one balances in the bottom end. That tends to create a little bit more of a drop and a lag, which tends to then help me to deliver the face a little bit more open. Having said that, this face is ripping it round. So let's add in a slightly higher balance shaft, a slightly softer tip, and see if that can add a little bit more to that as well. So the third step in the process is shaft-wise. So the sinister shaft, we said before, tip balanced, tip stiff, designed around lower flight, holding onto the club head tightly, reducing any of that recovery of the head as much as possible. Go on to the TPT, the 17 high in the red series. Now this is a slightly higher balance shaft. Now the reason I've gone to this is bringing the bounce towards the handle, in principle, makes it a little easier for me to recover the head through and get the toe round. So easier to get that toe going left as a right-hander and away from a fade bar shot. There's also a little bit more recovery in the tip. Again, trying to help as much as possible get a little bit of a recovery through and get the toe squaring up. But it's a very similar weight, within a gram. So we'll see what this step does and how much that helps me to get this over to the left. Yeah, so again, coming through the ball, whereas the first setup, I could really feel that dropping in and head starting open. This just feels so easy to whip the toe round in comparison. So with the shaft side of things, we're reducing the resistance to squaring it up. If you struggle to get the toe squared up, most of the time the club's dropping behind you, you might be playing something too heavy. Obviously there are technical elements from a technique standpoint that will be relevant, but from a club setup point of view, essentially the lighter we make that bottom end, the less effort it takes to get that toe coming through. So the more we can drag the weight towards your hands, that can help. And so this is really the principle of going to this shaft. Yeah, so for me, where I can really get the toe ripping over as my miss, this just feels, if this was a right to left dog leg, I'd be quite happy. But something that there's so little resistance to getting that toe through. We'll go one more and then look at the data and see from a left-right dispersion how much difference that makes. Yeah, so it really, as I said, really whips through the impact area. And if I was playing this course, I wouldn't be particularly happy. I think even on the first at St Andrews, I wouldn't be particularly happy with that shot. But we'll have a look at that right-left extreme now and see how much difference the equipment can make on its own. So we've got the summaries on screen here. And so what you can see at the bottom, this is the triple diamond head, so the fade bar head with the sinister, which is that tip balanced fade bar shaft. So path a hair out to in, but the face 1.5 degrees open. So it's finished 55 feet right, that's about 18 yards right to the center line, 42 foot of shot shape, so 16 yards of fade. So starting very neutrally up the middle and drifting away. To those who say, can you really change shot shape with the club setup? The answer here is, now granted we're going from a fairly fade bass head to one of the strongest draw bass heads on the market, but the side total offline has gone from 54 foot right to 132 foot left. So that's a vast difference. You know, combined that's 180 feet, that's 60 yards, which barely even St Andrews fairway is that wide. So I could potentially miss both sides of the fairways with those two tee shots. But you know, curve-wise, 56 feet left. So 56 feet, so 19 yards of draw versus 16 yards of fade between the two heads. That's a very, very big difference. And I think it's important because, you know, to those who say, well, why would you want to fix it with the clubs? Would you not want to fix your swing first? The answer is that not a lot of us have much time to work on our swing. It's hard to move your swing. It's not to say that it's not the right thing to do. Absolutely everyone should really be, you know, taking lessons if they can, because better technique will always lead to more consistent golf. But if we can make 50% of the change with the clubs, it's going to be a lot easier to make the rest of the change with your swing. That then makes it more easy to repeat, easier to get a straighter shot shape, easier to get consistency on the course, and that makes the game more fun. Now, if we add the extra layer in of the shaft with a slightly higher balance point and a softer tip up at the top here, what we can see actually, the ball flight hasn't really changed that much between the two shafts. The spin's only 150 revs difference, and the launch is a little lower with the more draw bias club, simply because that's let me close the toe over more. It's shut the loft down a little bit more. But we've now got 113 foot of shot shape. So we've gained another 55, 60 foot. So basically doubled up the amount of curve and ending 220 foot left. So for a draw of the ball, a draw bias setup, without going stupidly light, this is very, very within my weight range on shaft, I've now got 70 yards of shot shape on this without me then trying to adjust and change that. And that I think is really important. We can see from the most fade bias to the most draw bias, I'm now 280 feet of end result difference. So we're looking at 90 yards. That's vast. Granted, as a golfer on course, we will adjust, we will try and manipulate to make things work, but just purely swinging. And club path has only changed by a degree, 1.3 degrees top to bottom. Face angle's changed by nearly 9 degrees. That's huge. That's where the technology, the shaft types can help you to err against a shot pattern. It can't fix a swing flaw, and it'll never be able to do that, but we can mitigate some of those struggles that you have on course and make the game easier to be more consistent with. And ultimately, this is just a bit of a showcase of that. So hopefully that's given you a bit of confidence that there is help out there if you need it. If you've got a particular shot pattern that you're struggling with, go and see a fitter, explain the issue. There's normally a club out there that, whilst it might not cure it completely, can help you be that little bit straighter, a little more consistent, enjoy your golf that bit more.